Never again. Not for anything. Summer camps are the worst invention of humankind. Well, okay, maybe not all of them, but the one I want to definitely ranks first in the top of horror places. Hi, everyone. My name is Marie, and my long-awaited, magnificent, wonderful summer holidays turned into a disaster. It all began quite normally. My mom got a job as a teacher at a summer camp and decided fresh air would be good for me too. So one day she brought me with her to a camp in a forest. I imagined ordinary holidays, summer friends, parties, some hobby club. So I got off the bus, happy and full of hope. However, I couldn't understand where my future girlfriends were. There had been only boys about my age. Aside from the teachers on the bus, I had put it down to the bus being small and thought it normal that everyone simply hadn't fit in. I only realized the scale of the disaster at the camp when there was already no way back. The news came like a bolt from the blue. It turned out it was a camp for boys, only for boys. But that was just the beginning of my problems. When we were divided into teams and led to our future rooms, I tried to be optimistic again. There were boys. I was a girl and also the daughter of one of the teachers, so I would at least get a separate room. Not bad. I could live with it, right? Wrong. It turned out there was simply no separate room to be found for me in the whole camp. All the rooms had bunk beds and a couple of closets and were supposed to fit 4 people. I got 3 guys my age as neighbors, and for some reason, I decided that I could strike a deal with them. With a sweet smile, I suggested they live somewhere else, to be more precise. 2 of them immediately pretended not to have heard me, and the third, they say that love at first sight exists. I don't know about that, as it has never happened to me, but I thought I understood what hatred at first sight was. That's what I felt for my 4th neighbor called Matthew. Oli was explaining to me in 3 sentences why I was wrong and where I could shove my idea. Well, at least they let me have a lower bed. Matthew even signed it with my name in capital letters with the red marker. He said it was so that nobody would actually sit down and catch the area against the virus. I felt completely lost. # the nightmare was just beginning. From the very first day, the boys acted strangely. Obviously, being the only girl in the whole camp was a big deal, but all of the boys somehow immediately began to show interest in me. It all started out pretty nice. They complimented me, helped me up the stairs. Even the guys from my room were helpful. They walked out when I had to change, knocked, and smiled in the mornings. Well, all of them, except for Matthew. He didn't even try to pretend to be normal and mostly insulted me. And then I started to notice that the boys together or in turns were trying to stay closer to me. For example, they brought me my tray's food right to my table in the dining hall, and for some reason, there was always one more cake on it than everyone else was given. Something really weird also happened at sports competitions. I rarely participated because I didn't play football or like sports much in general, but I still came to the small local stadium. There was always someone carrying my things for me, and during the marathon, everyone had to take part in it. They literally carried me one by one, even though I said I could run by myself. Even in competitions, I was always made to sing, dance, or do something else. They were constantly looking at me, saying how wonderful I was and how great I was at everything, and they were always touching me. Someone would take my hand, then pat me on the head or give me a hug for no reason. I was tired of dodging and asking everyone to stop. At first, it all seemed fun, but then it began to scare me and I started to spend all of my free time closer to Matthew. He was rude to me, but he was also acting normal. The last straw for me was when 2 boys from the next room burst into the bathroom while I was taking a shower. There. They said it was an accident, but I was so scared I immediately ran to my mom and told her everything I thought. Mom, of course, wasn't happy but asked me to give the boys a chance. She used to tell me all the time that I was a beautiful girl and it was normal for guys to be interested in me, and now she just laughed as if to say I told you so, but she promised to deal with the troublemakers and even scolded them at the general meeting in the morning. However, that didn't stop the boys. They kept following me around, giving me sweets, and constantly offering me help. It wasn't cute at all. It was really annoying. Only Matthew remained the center of hatred in the beautiful world of guys in love with me. And then one of the teachers decided we should spend a night in tents in the forest and do even more sports, so we were dragged to some kind of hiker trail. Although it seemed more like torture to me. I tried to keep up with everyone, but I was the weakest in the group. I walked slower, carried fewer things, talked a lot, and it seems infuriated Matthew, who was walking beside me and practicing his weird jokes with my mere existence. But I stuck close to him, because by that time the other guys were simply scaring me. Even during the hike with the teachers, they kept looking at me, smiling and complimenting me. It wasn't funny at all, especially when a couple of guys decided that carrying me was a good idea. I thought back as best I could, but I didn't understand why, and most importantly, where they were carrying me. At some point, one of them dropped me, so I fell in trying to run, but my shrink must have been heard. Even on the other side of the world, my right leg got caught between rocks. It was so painful. The boys immediately stepped away and pretended they hadn't done anything wrong. The most annoying thing was that Matthew came to my rescue. If only he could have just helped me and got lost. But no, while he was pulling my leg out, pressing on it, smearing something on, and bandaging my poor limb. I learned so much about myself that my ears rang for hours afterward. I was apparently the most stupid and clumsy person in the world. Couldn't walk properly, which only brought trouble, and so on. And then it turned out we had got lost completely while we had been arguing, while Matthew had been treating my wounded leg, while my 2 nights without fear or brains had been laughing. Our group of amateur scouts had gone off somewhere, and that was really bad news because it quickly got dark in the mountain forest and was already evening at that time, and spending the night in the bad company was scary. The boys immediately volunteered to go ahead along the path and call for help and ran away. Matthew and I were so surprised by their speed we even stopped fighting. And then Matthew, making fun of and insulting me as usual, led me along the dark path back to camp. While gently holding my hand, he said it was so that I wouldn't fall and hurt my neck as well. We got to the camp at night. The other boys had been sleeping in their rooms for a long time. At that point already we haven't even scolded, and Matthew was even praised for not leaving me behind. To be honest, I also felt grateful to him, but I didn't admit it. He was too nasty and mean. All I wanted to do was lie down and go to sleep. My leg hurts. I was terribly tired. I didn't even have any strength to be afraid anymore. However, I didn't get to sleep that night. For some reason, my roommates hadn't gone to bed yet. I froze before the door and listened. Listen. I'm not really in the habit of eavesdropping, but they were talking about me the whole time. I thought they'd liked me as a girl, as a person, and taken their actions for interest, but it turned out they hated me. They talked about how cool it was that I wasn't in the room and how much I was bothering them. They were apparently tired of listening to my whining and whims, found me useless and stupid, and thought I'd only ever gotten the way they said. It would have been better if I'd never returned from the hiking trail, because they would have had a chance to properly relax in the camp. Then I heard a lot of other unpleasant things. I thought Matthew was the only one who thought that. Why were they saying such things? I ran somewhere, forgetting all about my hurt leg. I wanted to leave, get lost, never come back to the camp. But even those simple dreams didn't come true, because when I was running out of the building, sobbing, Matthew stopped me as if I didn't have enough trouble. Surprisingly enough, instead of making the usual jokes, he acted quite friendly, just like a couple of hours earlier. So I started crying on his shoulder, constantly asking Matthew why boys didn't like me. And then we had a normal conversation for the first time. Matt, you explained to me in his usual manner that my mom had been wrong to call me a princess. Everything the guys have been doing, all the compliments, supports, even cakes in the dining room, had been done out of ordinary politeness, like holding a door or offering a seat to a stranger without any subtext. And the incident in the bathroom really had been an accident. No one had planned it. Everything would have been fine, but my own behavior made boys hate me. I acted spoiled, complained, did nothing, and demanded something from them all the time, so I could only blame myself for ruining everything, even though we could have all just been friends. We talked about a lot of things, and it gradually dawned on me that Matthew was right. I was just hoping that it could still fix things. In the morning, I solemnly apologized to my neighbors and then to the rest of the boys. I spent the rest of the time at camp making up for how I'd acted earlier. It's a good thing the guys turned out to be truly good people. They understood everything, and forgave me. We ended up being good friends, even exchanged numbers and promised to keep in touch. Another surprise was waiting for me near the bus that would take him home. Matthew, who kind of hated me, took me aside and admitted that he actually really liked me. It was very weird, actually, but I remembered how many times he'd stood by me, despite all the words he'd been saying, how he hadn't left me in the forest, how he'd wiped my tears, and I decided to give him a chance. Love, at first sight, might not exist, but there is truly only one step from hatred to love, as we have found out. And now I know for sure politeness and love are completely different things. Holding the door, complimenting someone, or praising their hairstyle is politeness, and love can be different, prickly, full of grudges and jokes. But the most important thing is that it is about real actions. In the end, that's how it is for Matthew and me.